You are listening to the Famous at Home podcast with Dr. Josh and Christy Straub.
Because when it's all said and done, we all want to know that we were famous at home. Welcome back to the Famous at Home podcast. Guys, this is our first episode on YouTube.
We don't know what we think about it, and by we I mean me, but
here we are,
and we've been told for a long time that we need to do this,
and we're doing it.
We're obeying. We're doing it, and I do think it will be good.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. And
it's just a little more work and understand, and it's a whole new world. And
you'll probably see us change sets and all that type of thing because we're
now
trying to
my
work
mind
it
is
all
going
out
like,
and
ooh,
figure it
we
out.
can make this like really cool.
Yeah. So, and if you're listening for the first time ever, this is the Famous at Home podcast. I am Josh.
I'm Christy.
And we talk about all things being famous at home. And we ground everything that we do through really the idea of emotional intelligence. And if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about that. You'll hear us talk about that a lot. But the power of emotional intelligence and spiritual growth. So we really combine emotional and spiritual growth for your family, for your kids, in your parenting relationship. And then also we work a lot with military. We work a lot with
marriage.
Corporations.
I thought you were going to go
did I not
marriage.
say marriage?
You didn't, but I thought that's where you were going, but then you went military.
Yeah. We also do it with organizations and military and others. And so I just think we've been doing this for a while. We just released a book called Famous at Home, 7 Decisions.
Actually, if you're watching YouTube, you'll note. It's back here.
Right there.
We put it on the shelf.
7 Decisions to putting your family center stage in a world competing for your time, attention, and identity.
You sound like a radio announcer.
I do. It's a long subtitle. Our publisher said that if you have a long title, it kind of helps with keywords in Amazon. So that's where that came from. But it is 7 Decisions. It's a powerful, it's really, if you engage the book itself for your family, it will influence the way you guys live your lives. It will influence the rhythms you have. It will influence how you speak to one another. It will influence the atmosphere, the environment of your home, which is what we talk about a lot. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today in just terms of our own atmosphere and our own environment that we've been cultivating over the last couple of months. Because this is actually the first episode of season 12. We haven't, for those of you listening, you would never care about what season we're in. For us, it's a whole new launch. For us, we got various incredible guests coming up in this new season around topics of marriage, parenting, spiritual growth, leadership, which we are really, really excited about.
Agreed.
Sorry,
I didn't.
You didn't have anything.
No, I had nothing there.
I was gonna
I'm so sorry.
Throw you softball there. I there was no softball thrown.
It just was.
I just really want to say this because it has
air.
been a minute since we have been on the podcast. The last number of weeks we have been doing interviews and
that we recorded a little
the
bit
two
ago.
of us. We've been doing a lot of interviews lately, and so
really good ones.
Amazing.
Okay, let's just do a review, a podcast in review. If you're a new listener or you haven't been listening for a little bit, it's summer, everyone's out of routine. I just so understand. But let's talk about our favorites and probably the ones that I've heard the most feedback about.
And I think also too the ones that have influenced us the most.
Okay, let's start with that. Influenced us the most, Joshua Becker.
Joshua Becker, he's influenced our family in ridiculous ways since we've interviewed him.
We didn't know him.
We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And since then, I'd said this
the
before on the
called?
podcast.
Hold on, I'll look it up. Minimalism in your family?
Minimalism in your family. I like to call it biblical simplicity. I like getting to be more simple in my life. And I'll tell you, like when we moved from Branson we live outside of Nashville now. When we moved here a number of years ago, the moving company weighs the truck, and then they weigh it again after they put all your stuff on it, and that's what determines how much you paid the moving company. And I don't know when we're gonna move again, but I'll tell you, we have gotten rid of
we've saved money,
thousands,
like a lot of money
of stuff. And we don't even have a lot of stuff.
We're not.
But you collect stuff and you don't even realize it. Especially because we have 3 kids. I think that's important to say for those of you listening for the first time. We have an 8-year-old, or 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm. And they come with stuff.
And toys
and you get given
gifts
stuff.
And all that.
And you don't know what to do with the stuff. And so our episode, it was episode 262, Minimalism and Your Family with Joshua Becker. It was so, I don't even know. I haven't honestly even gone back to listen to the episode. So I don't know if the conversation was that transformational, but it left me with something and it changed our family. And so he sparked something in us that started to change. Like, and again, we do talk a lot about emotion, the spiritual world and the spiritual life, but this was something in just the material, physical world that somehow impacts everything. And I think that goes to say a lot about just how we're made, right? You can't separate. We're so holistic. And so our physical environment, which we talk a ton about in Famous at Home, affects our emotional environment, our emotional state, our relationships. It affects our spiritual life, and they all intersect and connect and affect one another. And so this was, I think, probably because we emphasize so much on relationships and emotion and spiritual, like that's more of our wheelhouse. This was so impactful. And I've heard from other people who've been like, my house looks like a tornado went off because of the Joshua Becker episode. And I'm really hoping that this is gonna, like, it's gonna be good in the end. But right now it's like a tornado. I'm like, yep.
We understand that.
Been there. But it was,
I got to tell you, like, we had so many bins. Like this morning, Christy's like, "Can you get me a bin?" And it's driving me crazy because we have so many extra bins now. But we put them up high in our garage. They're extra, and so when she needs one, I have to climb all the way up. But we have so many. We have a whole shelf just full of extra bins.
Guys, do you remember when you used to like, oh, you know, the kids outgrow a size, and you have to go to Target to like buy more bins to store the clothes? Because you're keeping them, because you're not sure, like, are we going to have more kids? Are we going to adopt one day? I don't know. Maybe we'll foster. It's probably wise. It's good stewardship to keep it around and not just dump it. And so you just keep storing more stuff.
And that's what we did.
But now we have empty bins.
Yeah.
We still have kept a lot of clothes, I'll be honest. For like
Joshua Becker,
kids.
Another one, Laura Duggar.
Laura Duggar.
Episode. It's on sex, y'all. Like, I'm just telling you, if you're married, it will change your life.
Wow.
It would change your
a bold statement.
Married life. It would change your sex life. It would change how intimate you are with one another, emotionally and physically. But I mean, it was a powerful episode.
She's
was
amazing.
The one that I got the most comments from the dads and the husbands out there. So there you go.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
That's what you meant to say.
You're welcome.
We had I have people like in my real life respond to me on that episode. They're like, hey, listen to this episode. I'm like, that's awkward, but cool. Like, I'm glad you listened, but like,
I love it. I love those conversations.
Those are the ones they'll probably like scroll by the other ones. I'm like, wait, what? Josh and Christy are talking about sex again? That was a good
Ashley
one.
and Dino Patrone, Kirsten Watson, Amy Parker, Mike Norwalkie. Like, there's so many amazing episodes that we had. I think from the standpoint of how you disciple your kids to what does it look like to
and hold on,
cultivate a life of
with
beauty.
Amy and Mike, that episode was so, I don't know, it was confirmational for me because he was talking about how difficult it is as parents who are trying to raise kids who have a Christian worldview, B, are in the Word of God without being like, subjected to it like it's this awful thing they have to do. But they actually desire to. And 3, I think I did AB3, but that's about where
I'm also looking up to see if the word confirmational is a word. That was a good one.
Oh.
Maybe it is.
It was, confirmational, totally. But what it confirmed to me was how difficult it is to find really good resources, books, TV shows, podcast episodes, music for your kids and for your family to listen to. And the reason is because they're taking it off. The big box people are taking it off. Like, there's no section now. What did she say in like Barnes and Noble or something?
Yeah.
For like Christian children's fiction, there's nothing. They've taken it out of the children's section. And so I think it's back in the religion section or something. Just stuff like that though, where I was like, that's exactly how it feels. It feels like there's nothing good out there. And then we're doing this episode with them and they're like, there's so many great things.
So many great things.
We have to be the ones to point each other to them because otherwise they're going to hide them from us basically. And so it was so confirmational, which is the word of the day.
I just looked it up. It's a word.
I love that you took time to do that. But also that I'm not crazy, basically, that this feels really hard, but also too, to be like, it was so encouraging that there are so many great things, and a lot of the resources that they talk about that they write themselves. And then we've added to the mix behind us here.
So go back if this is your first time listening to the podcast, go back and listen to some of those episodes. If you're a regular listener and you haven't gotten a chance to listen to some of those yet, those guests have been amazing. We got some more coming up that I'm just really excited about, from spiritual growth to parenting to marriage and the like. I think we're gonna have some more talks about sex, which why not? And
you're here for it.
I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too. It takes me a little bit to get like comfortable talking about this.
On YouTube.
On the YouTube.
On the internets. We also have another fun announcement to make. So thank you for all of those of you listening and who have gone out and got the Famous at Home book that released in May. And the feedback we've been getting from that has just been awesome. Those of you that are reading it, those of you who are making changes in your home and how you lead at home, how you connect with your spouse at home, how you enter your child's world at home, all of these things have just been really, really powerful to hear. And I just really want to encourage you, if you get an opportunity and you've got the book and it's influencing you, would you mind please leaving a review on Amazon? It just really influences other people who are looking to get the book, and it lets them know that, that it's actually a decent read.
It's a really good read. And I want to say to the people who've like shared it with friends, I've heard from a lot of people that were given this book by a friend. Like, thank you for sharing, because there's a lot of people that have never even heard of, maybe the concept of Famous at Home is new, and that's beautiful. And that's our hope, is that message gets out into the world more, but we can't do that alone. And when you share that and it impacts families so much, like one woman just said to me, like, she's like, this is exactly what I never knew I needed. Like, it's exactly where we're at. And so, but like has no idea who we are and doesn't need to know who we are. The point is it's the message that the Holy Spirit knew she needed right now in this season.
It's pretty cool too. I had an MMA trainer, a trainer who trains MMA fighters, give it to guys on the New York Giants football team. I mean, it's like who he trains a lot of. So it's pretty cool to just see how it reaches out there into the world. And you never know. You just pray and pray that it gets in the right hands and it influences those people. And so we just really appreciate each of you who listen and who are, championing the message to be famous at home, because we believe it's one that's very vital in this day and age and for this season that we find ourselves in the world today.
And I've heard too, the combo of Famous at Home with Bob Goff's new book, Undistracted.
Oh,
I've
interesting.
heard people say like they were put out at the same time for such a time as this.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
So like where one spouse was reading one and one was reading the other. We still haven't read Undistracted. We have dear friends that are in that book, and Bill and Lori Loki, who do Leader's Heart with us. And I know they're referenced a lot, and I think
it's pretty cool.
Part of the story there, but I haven't read it yet. I just, there's like limited hours of it a day.
One of the other cool things is that coming up here at the end of July 26th, we have another children's book releasing. So for those of you listening for the first time, we write children's books on emotions. So we started with What Am I Feeling? What Do I Do with Worry? Which if you're watching on YouTube, they're right behind us. And then the new one that's coming out is What Do I Do with Anger, July 26th. And we're really excited about that because this is kind of like a little series that helps our kids understand the power of labeling their emotions, why that's so important, which we'll go into other episodes. We've talked about this in the past. We'll talk about this more. But this is the environment that you're creating in your home and how you create a growth environment for your kids by helping them label their emotions and knowing what to do with them so that those emotions don't control them, so that they're not just acting on a whim or acting on their emotions, but that they go, oh, this is why I'm feeling this way. This is what it's teaching me about this particular situation or this particular person, and why I need to pay attention to that so that I can act appropriately to build healthy relationships. And that's really what we're all about, is to say, how do we build healthy relationships and love other people well?
That was really well said.
Thanks.
Really well said. I'm really excited about What Do I Do with Anger. I've heard from foster parents and adoptive parents and parents with toddlers like us, and that are like, oh my goodness, we need this. And don't we all? Like, don't we all? I was reading it last night with our son upstairs. He is 9, almost 10. So technically the book is aimed at age 4 to 8. It is not capped at 8. I'll tell you that much.
Well, any of our children's books on emotions are capped at about 99.
Yeah. 107, whatever you make it to.
Depend what your age is.
Whatever you make it to.
Because we all need it. And we're all elementary.
I would say
we're all in the elementary years when it comes to labeling our emotions and understanding them.
That's good. That's
I think
so true.
Many of us are.
But it doesn't just go to 8. I'll tell you that. But as we were reading it, he started telling me about, we got stopped because our 2-year-old came in and like interrupted and we had to go do something. And
was he angry?
No. He came and dumped out his bin of one of the bins of Legos, and Landon's like, like Micah.
Oh, he got
and he's
angry.
like, and I was like, it seems like you're angry. And he's like, I am. And I was like, I've got a book about that. And Landon laughed so hard. Like he's at that sweet stage where he thinks like,
you're funny.
I pray none of that never changes in Jesus' name. He thinks I'm so funny. He laughs at all my jokes. He laughs more at my jokes than you do. You could learn from him. But it makes me feel so loved because he laughs at all my jokes.
You don't laugh at many of mine.
Yours aren't that funny.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
Here's the truth.
Yours are dad jokes. But he laughed so hard. He thought that was like genuinely funny. I was like, I got a good book for that. And he was like, Mom.
Oh, you're funny.
Anyway, it's applicable for us all, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
Okay. And even the concepts, like we put it in a children's book because mostly that's what us parents want to read to our kids. We don't really want to read a book about, emotions or how to parent. So why don't we read it to our kids and we learn vicariously? But it gives us tools and how to help them with their anger and ourselves because half of the time, and in that book, well, anyway, we'll talk about that more in another episode.
We're going to do that in another episode, actually coming out next week. So
but there's so much more to anger than anger. Like it's not just behavior management.
We
don't
talk
throw a fit.
about anger.
Wow. Actually sounded pretty good.
Thank you.
Nashville's rubbed off on you.
Yeah, look at that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just thinking about we don't talk about anger, but we do talk about anger.
Well, I'm saying that there's a lot more to anger that we don't talk about. That's under the surface. We often go to behavior
we'll talk about that next week. How about that?
Okay.
Let's get into anger next week.
Time out.
Pause. We'll go to that next week. Teaser alert.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Last thing, and then we'll get into kind of what we're learning about this summer, which just where we're at as a family and kind of the things that we want to instill in you guys right now. We also have a program called Leader's Heart Cohort, and that is launching again this fall. You can check that out. We'll put that in the show notes. For those of you watching on YouTube, we'll link it there. We are launching again this fall. It's a 5-month program. It's just awesome. You focus on your emotional and spiritual growth of you as a leader, and it's just something that we have really enjoyed doing over the last number of years. We have a men's one starting in November. The women's one will start in January. We'd love for you to check that out. And that was my last announcement.
It is probably the thing that brings me the most joy and reward, and I could get emotional. We should do an episode just talking about it because it changes people's real lives. So if you're a leader, which you are because you're a parent or you're a spouse,
and it creates a safe environment where you build deep friendships. Like I'm talking like
and it's not just the deep friendships. Like that's beautiful, but it's such safety in being able to be your true self, yeah. So we have imposters that play, especially as leaders. So if you are on a stage of any kind, meaning people are looking to you, you will start to move into false ways of being because it's more readily accepted. Yeah. And so we help you peel back all those layers and heal and be your true self so you're free and you're unencumbered and you can live and lead the way you want and the way God purposed you to. And it just sets people free, and it sets me free every time we do it. So I love it.
I love it too. Christy.
Joshua.
Let's move into this. So
no one actually calls him Joshua. I just want to be clear. People would be like, because his Instagram is Joshua, and we go by he goes by it because Josh Straub sounds real hard to say. So Joshua Straub is easier to say. But that's when he's in trouble, or I'm being like super serious. Joshua,
what
did you have to say?
Oh, I was just going to talk about where we are right now.
I'm right here.
You're right here, and I'm right here.
I'm actually like sweating under these
You
lights.
really are. So this is our YouTube setup. We're going to have to figure out
we're going to have to change that real fast. In here. Well, there's also a golden doodle laying right behind us. You can't see it on the camera, but
he's blocking the vent.
He lays on the air conditioning vent because we live in 100-degree Tennessee, and I'm Canadian, and I'm not built for this. So,
but you've softened up. You've softened up because you can't handle the winters up north anymore either. So.
I can't not handle them. I just choose to not handle them because if you have a choice, like. They're gray and cold for a really long time.
That's true. All right. So
I'm sorry. Was there something you wanted to talk about?
Oh, yeah. How hot it is right now. You're hot, baby.
Thanks.
Like it made me think of a ring of fire.
Physically.
Like, I fell into a burning ring of fire.
That ring camera is a ring of fire. That.
I love you. You're funny.
Okay. Focus.
Atmosphere.
Atmosphere of our home.
One of the things we talk about often is the atmosphere of our home. It's the second decision in the book in Famous at Home. And
what does that mean?
What's an atmosphere of your home? We're cultivating the atmosphere of our home right now this summer because we have 3 children who are at home. We homeschool. But when we're not homeschooling, I mean, we're homeschooling, but we're not really. Like, we're not in the curriculum. So even setting up our rhythms of our family life throughout the summer look very different. And so for us, we've been navigating a lot, making a lot of decisions, talking about what the future holds, how we do that. And I know there's a lot of families doing this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of you who have recently made major moves from one state to another, some buying land, some, moving closer to family. There's all kinds of decisions that we're making. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that we have a mission as a family, that we have values that are guiding us and leading us. And this is something we talk about quite frequently, but we're revisiting some of that. We're revisiting our values, how we're living out our values, and how that cultivates the atmosphere of our home, because our kids become a byproduct of that. And so I'd just love to talk a little bit about, because just kind of updating those of you who listen a lot and like where we are and what we're learning and what we're doing to live out the rhythm of our home, realizing, and I'll talk about that later, but let's just talk about that.
Realizing what? No, go there.
Well, I think it's important, and we say this a lot, and I know this to be true, and we talk about it, but like I'm actually experiencing it, I think, more so this summer than ever, is that you are already famous at home. Whether you realize it or not, like and we sign off with this every time, the greatest red carpet you'll ever walk is through your front door. I got home yesterday, I was out working and I got home and the kids come running. The 2-year-old comes barreling in, just barreling in. And so that's how your kids view you. Yeah. That's how your spouse views you. Yeah. Most days.
As long as you're not late. If you come in on time, it's like, woo! Yeah. Daddy is the mom.
Yeah.
It's and like, then you're late and I'm like, where were you 5 minutes ago?
But I'm still famous to you and the most famous person for you. Yeah. And I think we often forget that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've been realizing this summer is how much my presence, and again, we get this, we talk about this, I get it intellectually, but to experience it, how much your presence makes a difference in your child's lives. All they desire is sitting with me. That's what my kids want. My kids want to be with me, doing whatever they want to be doing, but they just want to do it with me. Yeah. And that's what makes me famous. And so often what happens is we get messed up in our lives when our priorities change and we stop seeing where we really are famous and we try to be famous somewhere else.
Yeah. And I think, or we think we have to prove something at home. Like we think we need to do something, be something, do something different in order to be famous at home. Like the kids need me to do this. The kids, I need to control my anger. I need to be more present. I need to XYZ. And the reality is like, they view you with those eyes already. And I think a lot of us need to settle just circling thoughts. Like it's a lot of, I think, the enemy that takes over. our minds of like, I should be doing this. It's like our to-do lists, our anxieties, our worries, like in our downtime, in our present time with our kids, things start to take over and it steals our presence, but it also steals our peace. There's no rest and peace and full presence. And that's all they care about. Like, and truthfully, at the end of the day, that's all we want too. But we get so caught up with the to-dos of life. And I think that's what I've been feeling the most this summer is this transition to presence over productivity, over work, over just house, just this normal stuff that you have to do to keep a house running, and grocery lists and meal planning and cleaning and all that stuff. Like, yes, we have to do it, but I've been run by it, and I don't want that to run my life. I want to run my life, and I want to run it with the priorities that we've set. Like, we have our mission, we have our vision for our family, and I want to live by that.
You don't want to run your life. You don't want your life to run you. You want to run your life.
Right.
Yeah. And I came home yesterday. It was so fun to watch because I came home yesterday because it's so easy to get caught up in having the house be clean, making sure the kids are picking up after their toys, after themselves. Like,
well, it gets to be like running it like a machine, right? Like in some ways you have to, in order to keep like anxiety at bay and peace in the home. Like, you have to have some semblance of order, but you also have to have order that orders your days and orders the activities of the days. I find with the kids, especially this summer, if I don't give them purpose in a day, we struggle. They bicker. Mom, I don't know what to do. Mom, like, I'm bored. Whereas if I start to give them purpose, and a lot of that means just including them in with what I'm doing or what as a family we want to do that day. Right now we're painting rooms in the house, and there's a role for them to help with that. Like in prior seasons, we would have just done it and like put a show on for them or something. I want them to know that like they contribute to the household too. And when they started to get engaged in all the stuff that goes into just paint, like prepping, taping, moving all the stuff from the rooms, going to the paint store.
It brings them alive.
Well, yeah, because it gives them purpose.
It's unbelievable.
It's amazing how much they need purpose just as much as we do. And video games and TV,
they don't add purpose.
It works for short, and we're not anti like no screens. We're just, you can't, if you overuse them, you will eventually pay the price for it.
One of the principles, I was going to say symptoms. One of the symptoms, I was thinking of symptoms of too much screen time and what that looks like. But one of the principles we live by is something that Andy Crouch talks about in his book, The Tech-Wise Family, is be creators, not consumers.
Yeah.
So raise kids who are creators, not consumers. And so like even yesterday, it's amazing to see how, two quick things. I came home yesterday, I was painting our daughter's bedroom, but I came home yesterday before I was doing that, and the house was just full of...
It was actually awesome.
It was really, really cool. The Kiva blocks, Matchbox tracks, Matchbox cars.
Like it went from like the blocks, kitchen table, under the couch, through the living room, down
the kids are running around. The kids are the 2-year-old, the 7-year, or the 8-year-old. All the kids, they're running around the house and they're just smiling. Christy's having a great time. And the house is like, it looks like a tornado went off in it, full of toys. But it was a joyful tornado. It was like a really cool moment because everybody was engaged in some type of play together. And in fact, I wanted to keep playing, but I had to go paint the bedroom. And I ended up going up into the bedroom, and our daughter comes up, and she's just, and it does take a little bit longer when your kids join you in these types of activities. But to see the joy on her face from just rolling up the roller of paint on her wall, and how excited she is and how cool she thinks that is just, there's nothing like it. We as parents just have to come to a place of going, I'm okay entering my child's world, and it's not about my agenda or getting done by a certain time or having the house cleaned up at all hours of every moment that the kids aren't like, but just allowing the kids to let the atmosphere be that kids can be kids.
Yeah. And I think to be clear, the more they understand why you're doing certain things a certain way, like let's not discount them. They're super smart. So you teach them to be creators, not consumers. That's the point, guys. That's why we're limiting you to 45 minutes of screen time on the weekend. That's why I'm asking you to get out something you can build and then video. That's what I said to them yesterday. I was like, I want you to build something and then I want you to pull out the iPad and I want you to video it. And so out came like all the stuff.
And they're huge into Mark Rober and Dude Perfect. So
create
those types of
But I'm
videos.
like, you guys like watching them because they're creators and they're creating something.
That's right.
So the more that you can actually teach the kids the logic behind it. Like, I don't want you to become a consumer, because the kid that sits on on the screens all day and just watches other people do cool stuff, you're not living life. They are.
Yeah.
I want you to live the fullest life. And if you want to video it and have other kids watch it, cool. Yeah. But I want you to be a creator, and that's what's going to bring you joy. You can create, you can be inspired by other people and their creations, but then go do yours. And so I've noticed the more that we teach them why, it's like that makes sense to them. They don't want to be a bump on a log either. They want to live life. And I think if the more we inspire them to live a full, like, amazing life, the enthusiasm comes for the things that they don't really want to do in the moment. When you ask them to do the chores, when you ask them to go out and water the garden, and you ask them to like do the things that like would typically have created groans. And that was another thing we did too, is the stop complaining. So we have a complaint jar right now, because it started to be a lot of complaining of like, I don't want to, and like, nope.
And that's an atmosphere issue. So when we talk about the atmosphere of the home, you know that you feel the atmosphere of the home shift when people are complaining. And I think the other thing is true. Like, this is the way I kind of describe atmosphere. You know, like when you've gone to visit someone's house for dinner and you get back in your car afterwards, after you spend an evening with somebody, with another family, and you get back in your car and you just take that deep breath and you're like, it's like, I'm so glad to be back in my car, because whatever was going on in there, the chaos or whatever, you just feel like you just take a deep breath and your shoulders, it's like, oh, I'm just happy. And then there's times where you go to visit somebody and you have dinner at someone's house and you come back. And by the way, it might not be friends, it might be family. And you come back into your car and you take a deep breath of like, oh, that was lovely. I want to be like them. I want our house to be like that. I want to have I want, to cultivate the atmosphere they have cultivated in their home. Those are things that people war for.
Yeah.
The peace, the love, the joy, the kindness that's in a home.
Positivity.
People war for that. And it is something that I think all of us want to have, but it requires prayer, it requires contemplation, it requires insight into your own self and how you're showing up for other people. These are things that we'll get into, but for us, we've paid attention to atmosphere, and we talk about this in the Famous at Home book, but we paid attention to the complaints in our home. The Bible says to do all things without grumbling and complaining. Like, we don't want that atmosphere. Like, it just, when our kids are doing it, it sets us off into a different mindset, and our kids too. So we put a little jar together for those of you wondering. So our kids have to, if they get caught complaining, they have to put 50 cents in the jar. If we get caught complaining, we have to put $1 in the jar. And then they don't get a chance to earn the money back, actually. We actually are going to donate that money to a cause. And it's just an opportunity for us to catch each other, and everybody's involved. So the atmosphere of your home isn't about just your kids. It's about you. You as a parent drive the atmosphere of your home.
Yeah. And I think one of those, like, the things is you're held accountable because you're watching it for it in them, and they're watching for it in you, right? They heard us, like, we weren't arguing, but we weren't like, we were having a more heated conversation about something, and the kids were like, Mom, you owe $1 in the jar. And I was like, it wasn't exactly a complaint, but I guess it was anyway, I was like, legit. I mean, I would have.
That's because you were complaining about me, probably.
I don't really do that very often, but in case it might have been. But it was like, oh, yep.
Okay.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, guys. Go. So, but it changes the atmosphere in the home. And in Famous at Home, we have a evaluation, like an assessment that you can go through that evaluates where you're at on each of these. If you look at it like on a continuum, peace and chaos. Where is your family at right now in that continuum in the environment of your home? That's not to judge your family. That's not to look down. It's just to say like, okay, where are we? Like, what is the atmosphere of our home? Just like every home has a smell, every home has an atmosphere. And like Josh said, when you walk into someone else's, like if you feel the tension, between like a couple where you just feel like, oh, there's like these passive aggressive comments and you're like, they don't feel connected. You can feel the atmosphere of a relationship, of a family, and of a home. And those are the things that I think are super valuable to war for. Like that essentially is what's creating your life. And it dictates all your decisions. It dictates who your children become and who you become and where your marriage goes. And so I think it's super valuable, but you have to first assess where you're at and just be honest so that you know what you're working toward and what's the goal.
Yeah.
Because some people, that argumentative, sort of combative way in relationships is cultural. Like that's a thing, that is how they communicate. That's not a threat to them. And there's
personality styles.
Yes, that would totally threaten me. So there's there's personality differences. There's just unique things that will be different for your family, that like that thing might not be a goal for you. And that's beautiful. That's great. But you want to cultivate the environment that you long for, that you desire. Like this is the life that God has given you. You get it one shot. We get one time. And probably as we were kids, we were dreaming of what it would be like to be married and to have children. Like this is our chance to cultivate the very thing that we dreamed of.
And the beautiful part about that is when you cultivate it in your home, people leave your home when they come over and they're like, man, I want what they have. I want to live out those values, whatever those values are. Can you tell me about what makes you click? Because that's what takes this message of Famous at Home all over the place, is the way that we live our lives, the way that we lead our families, and that's what it's all about.
And I will say, like, there's a trap in that where you get caught, like, oh, I need our family to look like this so that other people are inspired by us. And I think that can be.
Oh yeah, that's not what I'm talking about at all.
No, I know. I know it's not, but like that's a weird twist. Like just be careful. Like you're doing this for your family, for the glory of God.
For your freedom. It is for freedom that Christ set you free. Like that you are free.
But I will say, when you live free, other people notice. And I can't tell you the number of people coming out of our, and they're like, I especially love when it's like a younger couple, like maybe, just starting to have kids, or they have a couple kids, and they're like, can you just tell me, I had one friend just recently, she was like, what do you guys, like, I just want to learn from you because your house was peaceful. Like we left and it was so peaceful, and yet you have 3 kids and,
we hear that a lot actually, which is a good thing to hear. Like I wouldn't think of it because we live in this house every day.
Yeah.
But to hear that from other people was pretty refreshing.
Because she was like, I just left. They were at a dinner party at another family's house. And I don't even know who it was. And it was just, I guess, chaos. And she's like, it was so different. And I just want to know, like, we want to cultivate what you guys have, and not that, like, we're not the model, but we've warred for it. But we have warred for it. And when like where the Spirit is, there is freedom, there's liberty, right? And so I just pray the Spirit of God is so in this home, in our relationships, in every word we speak and every action that we do. They're drawn to that. They're not, it's not us. But that's what's so attractive. And so I think a lot of this, we talk about the environment of your home, it's really the atmosphere of, like, it is the Spirit of God in your home, and allowing that to, Daniela Mason, I just heard the song today. Oh, hold on, I'll look it up. It's so good because it's talking about the Spirit breaking down the walls. That's maybe what it's called. Hold on. Cover the Earth, Daniela Mason. She's a worship leader at our church, but about like the Spirit, like breaking through the windows, break through the walls, like come cover the earth. And I got chills listening to it because I was like, that's what we want. Like, that's what I beg God for, is like his presence and his presence alone. That's all we need. That's what I desire, and that's what I desire in this home.
And I would say this too, when we say we war for it, I'm saying we war through it through prayer. Yeah. And this isn't something that just happens overnight, right? Like this is, in the book we talk about 7 decisions, but leading up to those 7 decisions, there's a number of there's 2 sections, 2 parts of the book that really talk about the journey that it takes to get to making those decisions, where those decisions actually stick. And so when I talk about warring, I'm talking about deliberate prayer, consistent prayer. I'm talking about therapy. I'm talking about life coaching. I'm talking
Leader's
about
heart.
Leader's heart. One. I'm talking about, we have spiritual directors in our lives. We go to church. We have our pastors. Like we surround ourselves with people who are genuinely, that we get to walk with, do life with, who are pointing out our stuff. Like we're doing everything we can to live in grace and truth. And that's what I mean by warring for it, because it does come with a cost a lot of times. But to me, I would rather live in those moments and experience the wide range of emotion from joy to suffering and live a full life than numb out and just live at like a 5 or 6 on a scale out of 1 to 10 and just live comfortably. And I think if you're watching this, you're listening to this, I think you desire the same thing. And so that's what we're warring for. That's what we're cultivating.
I want to say a Ray Woodism, which is my dad.
Go for it.
It's a lot like working out, or it's a lot like going for a run. Most of my dad's analogies start with those 2 things.
I love it.
It's a lot like working out, or it's a lot like going for a run. You got to put the work in, and it's not always fun doing the work, but the reward on the other side is always worth it. Like that's what we talk about. That's what we war for. You have to war to get the things that have value in this life.
Yeah. Because
the enemy is coming after everything that is of value, that reflects the character of God, the presence of God, the
goodness of Him.
All of the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Life hates it. And so we war for that. But that's exactly what we were put on this earth to do, is to bring the kingdom of God onto earth as it is in heaven on this earth. And so that's our joy. It's also our work, but we've got our work cut out for us.
So pay attention to the atmosphere of your home. I hope you're enjoying your summer. If you're in the middle of it and you're like, my summer is just going crazy because the kids are crazy, the house feels crazy, just make one decision. Just like one thing that you can go, I can hang my hat on this. Like, don't beat yourself up. Don't like we all have those days. Don't live in that. Live in what is your strength? What is this thing that your kids are just, Mom, Dad, I want to do more of this, or really just ask them questions. And a lot of times you'll see like their little eyes pop up, come alive, and you're like, that's what I need to be pursuing. Follow your kids' strengths. Follow your strengths. Stay encouraged, so that you're not living in this cycle of shame, or like, I'm not living up to the expectations I have for myself or my kids or my spouse. Just find that one right next step each day, and that will begin to shift the atmosphere. There's a book that'll help you with that, by the way, of your home. And
that's how Famous at Home starts.
So I just want to encourage you. The season is getting ready to start here. We got a lot of cool episodes coming up. We're going to be talking about a lot of these types of topics coming on out here in the next few weeks. Coming on out here in the next few weeks. So check the show notes for What Do I Do with Anger, Famous at Home book, and the upcoming Leader's Heart. If you're interested in that, you can set up a phone call with me, and I would love to talk to you about that. You can apply. That will be in the show notes.
Is there a different word for YouTube? Show notes?
Show notes. That'll be in the comment section. Comment is that what it below. Yeah, we should get you all commenting. Comment below.
Oh, we can actually hear from you.
Yeah.
Comment.
So if you're listening for the first time, you're on YouTube, go there to YouTube, go to the video of this episode, and
you can follow us on YouTube.
That's right. Follow us on YouTube.
Is that a new
thing?
Go
to subscribe. There you go. Look at that. Our first like. All right.
Hit the bell.
Subscribe.
Isn't that what people say? Like hit the. Yeah. I don't watch a lot of YouTube. Can you tell? We watch Dude Perfect, and Mark Rober.
And Dude Perfect.
Dude Perfect.
We watch a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So subscribe to YouTube if you're listening to this on audio. If you're watching this on YouTube, put in the comments what is the one thing. I'm freewheeling this right now because I can.
Put in the comments.
I think it's great to put this
in the
comments.
There's a response section now.
What is changing the atmosphere of your home this summer? What is it? What have you done? Let's encourage one another. What have you done? Let's help one another. What have you done to change the atmosphere of your home this summer away with your kids?
That's what I've started to do. If you wanted to ask, I'll go first.
Oh, you're going to, okay. I thought we were going to wrap this up, but go ahead.
You and the black.
Keep going.
I've putting my phone away.
You put your phone away.
For sections of the day, because otherwise it's just always like, ooh, I have an idea. Like, ooh, I should research another patio chair. Ooh, I should look up a recipe. Well, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I can do that at some point, but I don't need to do it right this second. Yeah, and there's kids in my face, and I want to be
I like
present
to airplane
for them.
mode it.
That's another thing we started to do. We airplane mode it.
Yeah, airplane mode
it. That would be another. We'll do like a holistic living one.
There we go.
Like Berkey filters, EMF.
We do like living.
We're like crunchy, but like make it ish.
Yeah.
Crunchy-ish.
Crunchy-ish. I don't even know what the word crunchy means.
I don't really
I love a
know.
good bag of chips, and for some reason, because of all the seed oils, I'm not eating as many chips anymore, which is a sad thing. So there you go. Maybe I'm crunchy.
You're veering, Levy. I've taken you down the dark side.
I'm going down the dark side. Guys, keep in mind until next week that the greatest red carpet you will walk is through your front door.
Keep being famous at home. We love you.